equipment?
Yes, you're on record.
I'm on record. All right. The meeting of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills Planning Board for Monday, March 18, 2024 at 7:30. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Diddy.
Here.
Mr. DePiero.
Here.
Councilman McGrath.
Here.
Mr. Mealy.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Present.
Mr. Napolitano.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Stanziel.
Here.
Chairman Dinsmore.
Here.
We have our board planner, Ms. Winter, our board engineer, Mr. Caggiano, and our board attorney, Ms. Steinle.
All right, announcement is made that adequate notice of this meeting has been given and that it is being conducted in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6 et sec of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. If we could have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. This meeting is open to the general public. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to bring something to the board's attention that is not on our agenda for tonight? Hearing and seeing none. We will move first to our resolution. We have a resolution in our packet for application number 23:527, Alpha Investments. Do I have somebody willing to move that motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Didich.
a motion to approve resolution for application number 23:527, Alpha Investments LLC, 52 Navajo Avenue, Block 525, Lot 21, minor subdivision with C variance for a two-lot subdivision.
All right, do I have a second?
Second, Mealy.
Thank you very much. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Diddy.
Yes.
DePiero.
Yes.
McGrath.
Yes.
Mealy.
Yes.
Mack.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Stanziel.
Yes.
Dinsmore.
Yes. All right. We have two items on our agenda tonight. We'll be listening to application number 23:511, Sir Parsippany first. This meeting is carried from February 26, 2024. Application number 23:533, T-Mobile, will be heard if there's time left after this.
I was told to make time for them by then, Mr. Chairman, so we'll do our best.
Okay.
Good evening, folks. Nice to see everybody. For the record, Larry Calley on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Chairman, members, where we left off matters is our case in chief concluded at the February public meeting. If you recall, we had testimony to and through, all cross-examination by the board, staff, and public of our project architect and then our project planner. At that point, we left it for our neighbor's representative, Mr. Dockery, representing the Homeowner Association of Mazda Brook, to present any comments, witnesses, anything he might like. We deferred and carried the meeting to this date. We have no more affirmative witness testimony that we propose this evening. We might very well recall a witness. We've got a few of our witnesses here, but testimony with all witnesses has concluded. And all we intend to do tonight is listen to our neighbors, perhaps ask some questions, and then once we hear from everybody, we'd like to briefly sum the case up, and we plan on turning it over to the board to deliberate this evening, not too long from now, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Is the counsel for the neighbors prepared to present their case? Please come forward. If you could give him the table, I guess, unless he doesn't need it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is David Dockery, D-O-C-K-E-R-Y, from the law firm of Becker on behalf of Mazda Brook Homeowners Association. Just to clarify for the record, my representation and what I'm about to put on the record tonight is only on behalf of the association as a corporate entity. I do not represent individual members of the association which may provide comments or questions this evening. My client has made a decision that it will not be presenting any objection testimony this evening, but in speaking with applicant's counsel, would just like to confirm some of the conditions of approval that I believe are already on the record. So I apologize for any redundance, and then some minor conditions that we would like to make as a condition of approval. First and foremost, it was put on the record that a landscaping buffer will be installed before construction begins. In clarifying this with applicant's attorney, we just understand that that will be for construction, and it may not be viable for that to be done during demolition. If possible, there would be some remediation efforts, but I think for the most part, my client understands that demolition may be prohibitive to any installation of that landscaping work. There will be signage placed to prohibit truck idling. I believe that was put on the record last time, and that no cold storage will be permitted. The following conditions of approval that we would request is more of a clarification that the building elevations will have a combination of dark gray and light gray panels, and that the elevations will not have any white panels. That's really to address any light reflection that may be an interference with the owners. The other condition of approval is we would like that the sound wall be inspected on an annual basis to make sure that there isn't any damage. Obviously, pragmatic concern of, trucks coming in and out, if they were to hit it or anything, that at least would be inspected, and the applicant make an effort to make sure that the wall is in good working order to provide the maximum sound attenuation. And lastly, simply that Mazda Brook be provided with a construction schedule so that they would be alerted to any activity at the site and so they can inform their residents. I believe that's all we have on behalf of the association.
Counselor, do you have a response to that?
We are agreeable to that, Mr. Chairman.
All of the items that the council asked for?
Yeah, several were already in the record, stipulated between the applicant and the board. The few new ones we discussed tonight are acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
That's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Sure. Are there members of the public who wish to come up and speak on this case beyond what has been presented by the Homeowners Association at this time? Please come up and identify yourself and give us your thoughts. We need to swear them in, actually.
Yes, so please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Yeah, my first name is Sachin, last name is Brahme, Brahme. I'm the resident of Mazda Brook since last almost like 15
All right,
years now.
and so we'll need your address and then I'll swear you in.
Okay.
Okay.
Address is 66 Emily Place.
Okay. So if you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So I would like to request the planning board and stress on this point that the nighttime operation should not be allowed. There are a bunch of like kids, elderly people, which are in the vicinity of 200 feet. Even if a truck idles there, right, then that disturbs the sound and the peace and the sleep. So my request is not to allow the truck operations after 7 p.m. in the night. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there other members of the public who wish to state their opinion or give us facts that we need to decide the case? Please come forward, identify yourself, and be sworn in. If you give us any facts that you're testifying to, we may be questioning you.
My name is Ramesh Nair, R-A-M-E-S-H, last name Nair, N-A-I-R, 43 Ryan Drive.
All right, if you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the requests to the board is we have went through the sound evaluation and the applicant has confirmed that the sound level is going to stay within the 40 to 45 decibel limit. That's what it is there. So one of the things that we wanted to enforce is during the demolition, during the constructions, and during the operations, we can make sure that there is something to check that stays within the 40 to 45 decibel, because one of the things that we want to avoid is it get approved and then all of a sudden it changes and then it becomes a major nightmare for the the residence. So something we wanted to add to verify and make sure that it stays within that limit.
Counselor, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, certainly. So the applicant's required, whether or not this board granted relief, to comply with the state noise regulations in Title VII. They're mimicked in the township code. The applicant needs to meet those standards for all acoustic impacts, including several related to construction and build-out in the township general ordinance. They will all be complied with. If the township has the requirement that there be some acoustic measurement in the field during construction, that's often the case when you're blasting, but not typical of average construction, when you're not digging any well or blasting rock. If the township doesn't require it, the applicant should not have to supplement their construction activities with a type of a monitor in the field. If the township requires it, the applicant will have it, and will certainly make data available to our neighbors. That's if it's required by code, which I don't think it will be in this case.
Have you decided on hours of operation for the demolition and the construction work?
They'll have to meet township code standards, so typically it's nothing before 7 or, and I'm guessing, nothing before 7 or 8 a.m., nothing after a certain time. There's probably prohibitions on weekend hours. Whatever the requirement is, the applicant has to comply with that during build-out.
Do we know what those,
Let's see if I can find. Don't know off the top of my head.
Andrew, do we know what those might be?
Not offhand, but it's somewhere between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m., typically to 4 or 5. But again, if you have to follow the hours of operation during construction.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any deviations proposed. We'd have to comply with the letter of the law, and that's right in the township code.
Yeah, and only other thing I want to add is, Sachin mentioned, I know it's repetitive, but the nighttime operations is a major concern as a resident. So something, whatever we can do to minimize or no nighttime operations at all, that's something that we would like to request you to consider, because the large number of residents staying there. Thank you.
Thank you. There are other members of the public who wish to comment on this or bring us information that matters. All right. Yes, sir, please come forward, identify yourself, and be sworn in.
You have to speak up.
Can you hear me now?
No, it's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Name is Mohan Krishnaraj, Krishnaraj, 37 Ryan Drive, Parsippany.
All right, and will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Only in terms of the quality of life, I still wanted to echo the other time what the members have mentioned it, that still, the loading dock to be in the front portion of it. Still think about it, as Mr. Dupo has already mentioned that, for the betterment of the community of the people and betterment of the life, okay, of the people who are resident in that community. And at the same time, the hours of operation needs to be considered in terms of it, like even after the construction or during the construction as well, to be limited to be only during certain time frame, not in the night, including the constructions during and after that. So that's one of the concerns are there to be.
Do you have any response that you wish to make on that, or?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions by members of the board? No? All right. Thank you very much. Any other members of the public have anything they wish to state? Hearing and seeing none. Counselor, do you wish to sum and?
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, please. First, I want to thank the board again for your time on this application. We've been here for a number of hearings. I think the dialogue is always incredibly helpful that we've had with the board, your staff, and even members of the public throughout. So on behalf of my office and the applicant, I want to thank the board for your assistance in shepherding this application to the finish line and hopefully a vote shortly. Just to take it back to the first meeting we had here, we introduced the applicant as a longtime property owner within the township. The applicant is not a fly-by-night developer. They did not acquire this property recently on spec. They're not a contract purchaser. this applicant has had this asset in their portfolio for a number of years, as well as other properties within the township. The township has seen a major shift in office demand, particularly since the pandemic. Parsippany has always been at the forefront of Class A office space being developed. That sort of went away for a while, for a few years, by office needs, office demands, and then the pandemic sort of really crushed it. And we're now seeing a lot of dormant office space around the township, around the state. The state statute has even recognized that there's a need to redevelop offices. It's a whole different metric out there now, and a whole different type of programming that's needed. This office is dormant, it's underutilized. It's a site that's out there today on Jefferson Road. It's a very large structure. It's got an expansive parking area. Much of this is already within the residential buffer. So what the applicant's here doing, and we're going to take you through that at a high level shortly, what we hope to do here, is wholly consistent with, what is really essential adaptive reuse efforts and the trend that you're seeing around not just the township, but New Jersey and beyond, in the New England and Mid-Atlantic. So the commercial site development in this corridor predates abutting residential zones. We talked about that as well. So along this corridor on Jefferson Road, you've got larger uses in the zoning district. They're all there on a permitted basis, or either by way of right under the code or by way of ratification of the board at some point. But this commercial development that we're talking about, particularly on this property at 299 Jefferson, it predates the abutting residential zoning district to our rear. At the time of the implementation of that lower intensity use that we've got behind us, the township, through legislation and ordinance enactment, created measures to sort of temper that incongruent zone line impacts that there might be, to reconcile those zone inconsistencies between heavier uses commercial permitted on Jefferson Road and the lesser intense residential uses that now are forming a cluster development behind us, if you will, to the rear area of our property on Plan South. So the way that it was tempered and reconciled was through heightened buffer standards enacted in the ordinance. And that's what we were here talking about for the entire first hearing, was the heightened buffer standards that we're dealing with between our use on 299 and the residential use to the rear. And through it all, the proposal that's been before this board, we have to remember, is a permitted use. Warehouses are allowed without condition or limitation in the zone. They're principally permitted in the zone and principally permitted on this property, where an office building is there today. Warehouses, as this board knows, is a use that's very much in demand within the state. Applicant's not proposing anything that's incompatible with the zone use. It's allowed, again. Notwithstanding the fact that from day one, the applicant has brought forth a proposed permitted use on a property where an existing commercial use is going to be adaptively reused for many reasons that go beyond local code, but just needs of society in general, the applicant's been responsive to the board, to your staff, to the members of the public throughout. Some of the applicant's efforts and the evolution of the project, I want to just highlight again for the members of the board. If you recall, we started this application many, many months ago. We've had lulls and hiatuses of months for plan revisions, for plan reconsiderations, for discussions with one of our neighbors, discussions with another one of our neighbors, and reaction to board commentary. The applicant protracted this process by choice at a number of different points, and it was to consider board and staff design concerns. It was to work with our abutter to our Plan West, the other property owner that's commercial along Jefferson, and then to collaborate with the Mazda Brook HOA, which we've been doing throughout. The result of all this was a lot of significant effort by the applicant, and you've seen relief eliminated and mitigated in connection with the site's most sensitive details. That's our residential abutter. Eliminated. That relief is gone that we were talking about being in that buffer area. It's no longer there. Neither the loading nor the building are in that rear buffer area. It fully complies. The only activation at the rear of the site now is remarkably improved and de-intensified from the current development that's there. The activation in the rear is really the fire access lane, which we're masking and muting by making it look as grassed areas. And we're also still providing wayfinding to make sure first response can see it as they go through this masked area that just looks like green. There's no bulk relief that's creating an impact to the abutting residents now. Nothing at the rear is creating any type of relief from this board. It's fully compliant, with the exception of the wall, right? But that wall, the whole purpose of it is to mitigate impacts for the residents, that sound wall. So another aspect the applicant undertook was when there were concerns about acoustic impacts. We know all along we have to comply with the acoustic standards under Title VII and of the Township Code, but the applicant endeavored to hire, essentially the preeminent acoustic expert witness in the state who helps write the legislation at the state level to ensure that it would comply. And he's modeled it and we've shifted the building forward, and it works, it will comply. The applicant is not asking for any relief from acoustic standards at all, nor could they, is the reality of it. Something to remember also, we discussed this, I believe, the last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago, this can all be field reviewed. You know, once this is built out, there can always be a look back at any point in time, whether there's a complaint or not from an abutting neighbor, whether it's a commercial or residential neighbor. The township can always be tasked with coming out and determining what the current acoustic level is and whether or not it's in compliance with the state regulations or not. So this is not a one-time review period where the board or the township are divested of jurisdictional authority moving forward. This is a requirement the applicant has to meet in perpetuity, comply with the noise levels. This is not something that we say we're going to satisfy today, and tomorrow if we don't, you can't haul us in. There are enforcement mechanisms, and there are measures to test this in the future in the field. The township has that authority at any time. It's fully within their discretion. Moving on to other infrastructure improvements, stormwater controls. You heard extensive testimony from our project engineer, Ben Crowder of Bowler Engineering, that the stormwater improvements are remarkably improved under the proposed conditions than they are existing in the field today. The site's getting refreshed in a number of ways, both just, not just aesthetically with the new structure, the new skin of the building, its very nice articulations and fenestrations, but it's also the infrastructure of the property is getting improved. Moving on from the stormwater, very generous planting buffer is proposed. These were all things that were discussed during that applicant's protraction of the hearing process, where they went back to the drawing board and said, what can we do to enhance, what can we do to be responsive, what can we do to consider board concerns and public concerns. The planting buffer at the rear now, we've talked about this at length through the rendering testimony you've seen from our architect, our project planner, as well as the civil testimony. Mature trees are being installed at planting. Berms being installed where there's this, where it's helpful and necessary to, and there's a significant separation between the structures and the planting area, and then the property line, and then the residential structures beyond. We're looking at it from multiple different points. The renderings that we introduced at the prior public hearing, it's an accurate reflection of those field conditions. The building and wall were barely visible under those proposed conditions. And when you look under a 5-year build out, you're not going to see anything. But that's not the standard that we shouldn't have to see it. You're allowed to see and develop a commercial structure, and it can be within view shot of an adjoining property. That's not the standard, it has to be invisible. I want the board to take notice that the applicant has gone over and above to make sure they address and satisfy the concerns of their neighbors, not with just the acoustic impacts by implementation of that very expensive wall, with the acoustic studies that confirmed conformity with the regulations, the stormwater improvements, the lighting improvements, the deactivation of activity at the rear of the structure, pulling everything out of that buffer, loading, parking, and structure, which you don't have today in the field, but also a lot of landscape buffering to add to all that, to add to a brand new building. You've heard expert testimony, board members, from the beginning. We've had civil, architecture, traffic, acoustic, and planning. The requests of your consultants have been taken into account and generally agreed to at all points. I note the last hearing we talked about fire access to the rear. The applicant returned at that meeting, and through planning testimony, we showed you an updated exhibit plan from Bowler Engineering saying exactly how you're going to do the wayfinding around the property, exactly how they're going to get to the back of the building if first responders need to get there to battle the fire. The applicant's been really responsive throughout. Thematically, the applicant has responded at every turn to the board and our neighbors. They're going to continue to be good neighbors, good owners of the property like they've been doing for years. That's not changing with an approval here. We talked about relief concerning the residential use being wholly eliminated, but even still, the applicant offered several proactive conditions at the last public hearing for Mr. Tobia's planning testimony. We confirmed no outdoor storage. We confirmed no hazardous material storage. We confirmed that there will be a maximum of 2 tenants here. It's a small structure, notwithstanding the fact that there's been a lot of discussion by members of the public that this is a big operation. Relatively speaking, this is a small warehouse. The sound wall is going to be designed so that it can get over that drainage pipe issue. There was a conflict on the plan detail. We had to clear a drainage pipe issue with the installation of the sound wall foundation. That's going to be met, and your board engineer can review that. We confirmed the building's not going to be used for cold storage. That does tie into acoustics, and also no refrigerated trucks will be stored outdoors correspondingly. We're installing evergreens to the east of that fire lane. That was all in the prior exhibit plan that you folks have seen. We talked about trying to get as much landscaping in during the construction phase as possible. Some of it might be futile because some of it could be damaged or destroyed. None of it's likely to really be installed properly during demolition, but the applicant's going to endeavor to get the screening up as best they can during the construction phasing. And then tonight, we just discussed a few more. The applicant has to and will comply with the hours of operation, acoustic measures, dust control measures during site demolition, and throughout construction. These are township ordinance requirements. The applicant has to comply with them any which way you cut it. Again, this is not a fly-by-night applicant. The general contractor who's installing this is not going to be, one guy swinging hammers. This is going to be a Class A operation to and throughout construction and then operation thereafter. And then, of course, compliance with the state and township noise regulations is a must, right? There's no way around that, and the applicant certainly will. And that essentially is our case, Mr. Chairman and members. What I want to do is I want to thank you folks again for your time. And the last thing I do actually want to mention is, we've heard a few neighbors tonight again mention that the overnight operations, again, going back to the beginning of my closing, it's a permitted use. There's no limitations in the code on this use, nor hours of operations for such a use. The case law is very clear, and I can cite the seminal case for your counsel. It's Toll Brothers v. County of Burlington, 194 NJ 223. There needs to be a nexus between the relief sought and a condition imposed by the board here. The relief sought on this application involves no impact to the residential abutters. We are not within the proposed development area that conflicts with the buffer area. We're outside of that setback. The loading area is well beyond it. The structure is beyond it. Parking areas are beyond it. And the sound wall is a belt and suspenders acoustic dampening measure that will ensure that there's compliance with the noise level regulations that do apply. But there is no relief related to that residential setback. There's no relief related to acoustic levels or the like. So, the overnight operations is a hindrance that the applicant really cannot accept and really shouldn't apply in the prevailing case law. With that, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you and the board members again for all of your time on this application. I want to thank the members of the public that worked with us, and we put it in your hands, folks.
Okay.
Just for reference, the construction demolition activity would be permitted between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays and between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekends and federal holidays.
Thank you.
And that is 258.5.
Thank you very much.
All right. This closes the evidentiary portion of the hearing. I'm going to ask for a sense of the board. Do we want to move to go into conference, or do we want to move a resolution?
Good with conference.
Do I hear a motion to go into conference?
Motion to go into conference.
Do I have a second?
Second, Danish.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Gordon, I guess you volunteered to start.
I recognize that the applicant has complied with the minimum requirements in the rear of the property next to the residence. I cannot get past a 40% front yard setback when their own architect admitted the building could be smaller. So I'm afraid I can't support approving this application.
All right. Who would be next here?
Mr. Chairman?
Nick?
Thank you. I just want to say that we see many developers and many applicants come to the board, and they can care less about their neighbors. They just want to build and move on. In my opinion, these applicant developers have made many accommodations, including adding an extra natural barrier, which includes more trees. They said no cold storage. There would be signs put up that say no idling trucks. They're adding a 16-foot sound wall. They moved the building towards the front Jefferson Road, so further away from the Mazda Brook Commons. I mean, in all seriousness, there's no way to block out all the sound. I live about 1.5 miles from Route 80, and I still hear Route 80 every morning. In the middle of the night, I still hear those trucks. I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Any other volunteers for further discussion? Mr. Mealy?
Even with all the testimony given, I'm still concerned about the quality of life of the people nearby. So I'm this way and that way as far as how I would vote on this. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. DePiero?
Well, I would have been happy if they rotated the building 90 degrees counterclockwise. then there would be no discussion about the sound. Their own sound engineer diagram showed that the opposite side of the terminals, the trucking terminals, had no sound. And that would have been better, in my opinion. I appreciate the effort to mitigate the sound with the sound wall. That second best, I guess. But it is a legitimate application. If it were to be turned down, we have round 4 of affordable housing coming up in 9 months. I'd rather see the warehouse than affordable housing to go back there. So I'm going to support it.
Other members of the board, Mr. Dedich?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just want to make a quick comment. Yes, there are definitely concerns regarding the acoustic measurements. I do appreciate the effort from the applicant in terms of mitigating most of those. I think we are at a point where it's more about enforcement of those standards or the code. I hope we as a township will be able to enforce those and keep the disturbance at the minimum. I'm with the Mr. DiPerio, that is, we rather have warehouse there versus no activity in the town. I think the office space is out of equation at this moment in the economy. And as a community, as a township, we need to move forward and look at other avenues. So I'm going to support this application, keeping all of that in mind.
Mr. Shaw, do you have some comments? No? Any other members of the board have any comments? I want to thank the board for their thoughtfulness. I want to thank the applicant for working hard on this. I want to thank the public for bringing us their concerns, because I think that your being here made this a much better application in the end. I think that the state and local requirements on the noise, if we can keep them enforced, will prove to be, make it a much nicer neighborhood than it would be otherwise. I agree with Mr. DiPiero that we're kind of in a tough place at the moment with regard to how space that used to be offices and we always thought was going to be an industrial park is now looked at by some as being a possible residential area. And it would make it very difficult for the town to absorb that many extra residences. So I'm going to vote in favor of this application at this time. And do I have a motion to move a resolution?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dedich.
A motion to approve application 23:511 SIR Parsippany LLC, 299 Jefferson Road, Block 736, Lot 7.3. Preliminary and final major site plan with C variance, major soil moving permit to construct a warehouse with associated improvements, along with all the conditions.
You want to give us the conditions before we...
I can go through. This original application was before the board in June, but no testimony was heard. The first testimony was taken in September 23. The conditions from that meeting were that a berm of plantings would be added toward the residential buffer, which has been agreed upon. The applicant will comply with NJDEP and township noise requirements, which is agreed. The applicant will not permit idling and will comply with the state and township noise requirements and comply with the township and state and federal laws regarding storage on the property. Same with demolition and construction. The applicant agreed to comply with monitoring for noise compliance, including a 6-month look back after the construction or the certificate of occupancy is issued to review for acoustic testing, and if the numbers are not sufficient, then additional mitigation will be installed. The applicant agreed to comply with runoff standards, and NJDEP stormwater requirements. That's everything from the first meeting. The meeting on the February 5th, the applicant agreed to install signage for the delineation of the GeoWeb for emergency vehicles and signs for snow removal as well. The applicant agreed to prioritize the berms and noise and landscaping buffer between the residential neighbors during construction. And applicant agreed to reduce the lighting to match the planner's report, the height of lighting. That's everything I have from the 5th of February, and then from the last meeting on the 26th of February, the applicant agreed to update the plans to show the sound wall, designate freestanding signage for trucks. This is in Dan's handwriting, so I'm not exactly sure what that one was. If you could help me out, Larry, I don't know if you remember. I'll look through the YouTube video and just confirm that, but it has to do with the freestanding sign. No idling signage will be installed, maximum of 2 tenants, no outdoor storage of goods, no hazardous storage of goods, no cold storage, and no refrigerated trucks. I think that covers everything.
I'm actually going to turn to the homeowner's attorney and...
Oh, yes, we have the ones from today.
Yes.
Landscaping buffer before construction but not during the demolition. Signage to prevent truck idling, no cold storage. The building elevations will include dark and light gray panels but no white panels. Sound wall will be inspected on an annual basis, and the HOA will be provided with a construction schedule. Now I think that's everything.
Is that everything that you recall? Counselor, is that all acceptable? And of course, with regard to the mitigation features and the landscaping, the applicant is agreeing to work with the township professionals on how that will work. I'm assuming that is your understanding as well.
That's right, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So now we've got a motion embedded with all of those qualifications there. Do I have a second?
Second, Napolitano.
Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Didich.
Yes.
DePiero.
Yes.
McGrath.
No.
Mealy.
No.
Math.
No.
Napolitano.
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Stanziel.
Yes.
Dinsmore.
Yes.
6 yes. 3 no.
Thank you very much, folks. We appreciate your time. Good seeing you. See you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the M's, but, okay.
Should we take a few minutes break so we can look at the...
Sure.
We're going to take about a 5-minute break at this point, and we'll be back for case number 23:533 T-Mobile. Okay.
It's gonna take a while to write.
That's right. The Scarper, Benjamin left you the heavy lift.
That's all right.
Tough. I've been
I
watching
knew.
a lot of British
Get there.
mystery shows.
Yeah. Learning some new lingo.
Oh, a lot of them. I don't want anybody playing silly buggers with me. We've got Britbox and Acorn, and they're both wonderful.
Thursday's 4 weeks, so like 3.5 weeks right now. Should I have the brakes on?
I always try before the meeting, so if Dan reviewed, to watch the video, because his handwriting is so bad, but I didn't get around to it.
But they really should.
So, and I usually like take notes off of the video instead.
I had, rotator cuff surgery.
See, I wouldn't be able to do this.
Screws in my rotator cuff.
So I just, I'll just review while we're going through everything.
But you don't want to be rolling, I know that's a big.
I know, I don't want to roll it on. They're more scared about it. Pushing and pulling.
Sit down there, you can sit on it, you can sit on it.
But your bike's independent.
I've actually left fairly
I would have
Well, I was blown away when the homeowners association attorney basically said he worked it out.
Yeah, I'm sure they had a call or something before this.
I know, I don't know each other. Like, I all said, I'll read the exact code. I learned about
Stand by me.
Never once saying you smart. They have to like do like, special like massage the scar out.
Yeah, exactly.
We're actually gonna have another member come in.
It was,
And leaving us, so.
It's just hanging out.
Yeah.
It's just the beat.
From a whole different view.
Yeah. I got promoted. What comes your back guy?
Yeah, so what's next? Like, I'm doing now I got
Board for Monday, March 18th is reconvening. Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Barbario.
Here.
Mr. Diddy.
Here.
Mr. DiPiero.
Here.
Councilman Brett.
Here.
Mr. Neely.
Here.
Mr. Matt.
Present.
Mr. Napolitano.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Stanzio.
Here.
Chairman Dinsmore.
Here. All right, we're back together again, and our agenda now includes application 23:533 T-Mobile, 1269 Route 46, Block 729, Lot 6.01, Zone 03. This is for minor site plan with C variance to construct a temporary monopole with antennas and electric service. Enjoy.
Thank you very much. I think you can hear me better with the microphone close. Well, that's one way to clear a room, huh? I got nobody left with my team. Jennifer Kinerick from Parsippany-Troy Shulman and D.R. Manale on behalf of the applicant, T-Mobile Northeast LLC. This application, T-Mobile has an existing approved and operating wireless communications facility on the existing building on what is known as 1269 Route 46, also known as Block 729, Lot 6.01. T-Mobile is proposing to deploy a temporary facility at the subject property, which will include a 49-foot monopole, installation of 9 temporary panel antennas on the temporary pole, and to extend temporary electric service to equipment installed. It should be noted that T-Mobile obtained prior approval for a rooftop facility way back in December of 1997, specifically to install roof-mounted antennas with an accessory equipment cabinet on top of the existing building, which is currently now vacant and pretty much most of the demo work being done on that property. Because of the demolition, we're seeking approval for the temp facility to maintain service to our customers, so that a permanent replacement can replace the temporary facility. Continuity of service is extremely important, especially during emergencies, as many people rely upon their mobile phones as their only means of telephone communications. According to the most recent federal government survey, approximately 70% of adults and 80% of children live in a wireless-only household. As a result, we're seeking to operate this temporary facility to maintain service to our customers until a new facility can be constructed. The applicant is seeking minor site plan approval. Other associated variance relief included is minimum setback from another zone, that's the B1 zone, where 300 feet is the minimum permitted, and 35.3 feet is proposed. Minimum front yard setback where 75 feet is minimum permitted, and 27.1 feet is proposed. Minimum side yard setback where 75 feet is permitted and 35.3 is proposed. And lastly, for the location proposed in the front yard. I have three witnesses with me this evening. I have Francis Bischolte of Pearcon Solutions, who is the RF consultant. I have Joshua Critchell of French and Perillo, who will be testifying in his capacity as a professional engineer. And lastly, I have Tim Cronk of TKA Design Associates, who will be testifying in his capacity as a professional planner. Just a few housekeeping items. We received township and agency report, including planners reports dated January 5th and March 12th. We also received your board engineer's report dated February 21st, as well as the police and sewer no comment letters. If there's no further items that the board has any questions on, I can bring up my first witness.
Waivers.
Do you have any waivers? Yes.
We do have waivers. So as far as the waivers go, there are a few from Appendix A, the Morris County Planning Board approval, the Highlands exemption determination, the scale of the map, which contours, proposed spot elevations, existing and proposed utility services from Form, those were from Form 3. Location description of existing proposed landscaping, and from Form 10, again, the scale of the map, existing and proposed contours, and existing and proposed utility service. And I believe most of these are related to the fact that it is just a temporary pole and you're not looking at the whole site, so we don't
Correct.
have any objections to them.
Thank you very much.
All right, is there a motion to approve the waivers as presented in the ARH memo of, March 12th?
Yes.
All right, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, a motion to approve the waivers as discussed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
We're up?
yep.
Ms. Ramirez?
Yes. Well, not me, but.
All right, if you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Yes. Francis Boschulte, Boschulte, employed by Pearcon Solutions in Lincoln Park, New Jersey, 63 Beaverbrook Road. I hold a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I've been employed as a radio frequency engineer for over 20 years. I've designed sites throughout the state of New York, New Jersey, and I've testified before many boards in the state of New Jersey.
Including this one many years ago.
Many years ago.
Any questions on the qualifications? Hearing and seeing none.
Actually, just one. I mean, I know you're not required as an RF engineer to be, but you're not a professional engineer, are you?
I don't have a PE license, correct?
Okay, thank you. I think this is the one profession that is permitted to not be licensed to testify.
That is correct.
You are right.
Okay.
Thanks.
We're good? Okay.
Yes, you're good.
Thank you very much. Why don't we first, before you get into your exhibits, why don't I have you go through FCC compliance, which T-Mobile is licensed by the FCC, correct?
Correct.
And I just want to have you go through for the board, just so they have an understanding of how the system works in terms of compliance with FCC rules and regulations.
So the FCC gives guidelines. I prepared a report using the very conservative calculations according to the FCC. 100% being the maximum limit based on T-Mobile's equipment and technology of LTE, 4G, and 5G, and all the frequency bands that T-Mobile is currently licensed. They will be in compliance. So the calculations worked out to be approximately 15% of the worst case for general public. And so it's 6.6%, 6.6 times below the FCC's limit of 100%. So the site will be in compliance.
Is there any questions as to that aspect before I move on to the exhibits?
Any questions on that?
Okay.
Nope. Hearing and seeing none.
Great,
Please.
thank you. You're up. Don't forget your mic.
Thank you. I'm sure you've seen these exhibits before, so I'll give a basic explanation.
Before I have you move forward, can I just have you mark those in for the record?
Those were not submitted before, so each one of them has to be marked, right?
Okay. What would you like me to be?
A1. Do you want them all marked separately or as one?
A1,
joint?
2, and 3, basically.
There's, okay,
There's 3 maps.
all right, yep. And then just describe each.
Sure.
Please.
The first map is titled T-Mobile Existing LTE 2100 Megahertz Coverage. This is T-Mobile's mid-band. It handles the majority of the capacity on their network. What you have here on this map are T-Mobile's existing sites, which are identified as the blue dots and white wedges. You have a topographical layer showing the major and minor roads. You have Route 80 and Route 46 going from east to west. And then overlaid on top of this map, you have a propagation coverage map. So the area in green defines T-Mobile's in-building service for residential and commercial. The areas in white doesn't mean that there's no signal, it just means that it's not providing in-building service. So you may have signal on the street, but you don't have adequate signal strong enough to penetrate inside the buildings. In the center of the map, you have the existing location, which is identified as NJ06049C, as a pink dot in the center. And as you can see, it is located very close to Route 46 and Route 80 in a commercial area, handling a good portion of the businesses in that area, as well as traffic, vehicular traffic. That was A1. The next exhibit is A2. This is a demonstration of what happens to T-Mobile's in-building service when the site is no longer on the air. It's titled T-Mobile Existing LTE 2100 without NJ06049C. As you can see, without this site, you begin to have areas that are now showing in white. You have less areas in green, indicating that you are losing in-building service to these commercial buildings that are in the close vicinity of this site. The third exhibit is a propagation demonstrating what the temp site will bring. That is exhibit A3. And as you can see, it's basically a replacement of what is existing today. Is to ensure that T-Mobile is going to have continuous service, providing in-building communication to the residents and people that work in the area today.
And all of these exhibits were prepared by PeerCon Solutions LLC.
That is correct.
And we'll give them the date of today's date of March 18th.
Dated, correct?
Yes, they may have the date on it.
Yeah,
or not,
We'll just mark
but it's
today's
recent.
date. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And just one more question. With regard to the height of the tower, that 49 feet is the minimum necessary in order to provide the coverage that you just described? The
Yes, it
temporary
is.
tower? I have nothing further of this witness.
The members of the board who have questions of this witness on this testimony?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
It's more of a comment. From A1 to, this is with the tower up, right?
Yes.
Why does it look like there's a huge swath of residential area that's not? Sticks out because I used to live on Twin Oaks Road, and I can see the clear as day from here.
So there's no change from what is existing. So this is the existing footprint. So you still have this small residential area to the north of Route 46 in coverage. But the areas in white, what it's indicating is that you're like marginal. So you may have good signal, good communication You may not drop, you may not get the spinning dial that you see in your phone trying to connect if you're close to your window, but maybe if you're in your basement, you may have connectivity problems. Your data throughput's going to be slower. So this is where T-Mobile would like to improve their service, but right now, the areas in green are where they can say that they're supplying their users with adequate data service.
Gotcha.
Mr. Napolitano?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. How tall is this pole again?
The antenna center line is 46 with a top height of 49 feet.
Okay, thank you. And then, this map that you sent us here, aerial photograph, TK Design, this one here?
No, that would be our planner.
All right.
He hasn't testified yet.
Okay. Anyway, there's a white square building, I guess that is north of the tennis courts and basketball courts. That's a daycare center. Is there any danger to the children that are there with this pole being up?
No. The site is fully in compliance. Although it's a low site, it's 6 times below the FCC limit. The site is already existing, so the emissions today are going to be very comparable to what the temp site's going to provide.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Any other members? Hearing and seeing none. Andrew?
Yeah, I just had a question on the timing. So the current tower is being removed, this is going up, and you mentioned there's going to be a future permanent one, correct?
There will be a future permanent one that hasn't been identified
Any
yet.
idea on timing, how long this will be in operation, this temporary one?
I know they're hoping for 2 years, but I don't know for sure.
Just offer this,
I'm sorry, sir. You'll just have to wait to be sworn in, unless you want to do that now.
He's not one of my
Okay,
witnesses.
thank you.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And then who's testifying on the actual structure itself, how it's constructed?
That'll be the engineer.
That'll be the A&E
Okay.
engineer.
All right. Thank you.
Just to follow a previous comment, my house is pretty much in the middle of that white snowball. But it's right underneath a great big water tower that has all sorts of telecommunication antennas on it that the town would be more than happy to rent.
I will pass
Duly
that
noted.
information on.
We'll take that back.
No, I don't have T-Mobile. So, are there any members of the public who have questions of this witness on this testimony at this time? Hearing and seeing none.
Yeah, on a lighter note, that green has nothing to do with the greenery or the trees, right? That green has nothing to do with the trees or greenery.
The green is in
Nothing
regards
to
to strictly
Coverage.
coverage, has nothing
Right.
to do with foliage.
Just on a lighter note, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good point.
All right, so hearing and seeing no members of the public who have any questions on this witness at this time, Counselor, if you wish to move on.
Sure. My next witness is Joshua Cottrell.
Thank you very
from
much.
Punch and Pearl Associates.
If you please raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Sure. It's Joshua Cottrell, Cottrell. I'm with French and Perello Associates, 1800 Route 34, Wall, New Jersey.
Mr. Cottrell, will you please provide the board with the benefit of your qualifications and experience for the record?
Sure. Bachelor's in Science, Civil Engineering from Rutgers University. I have approximately 16 years in the wireless industry, preparing site plans such as this one. Testified before numerous boards within New Jersey. I do hold a valid New Jersey professional engineering license.
And that license is in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Any questions on the qualifications? Hearing and seeing none.
Mr. Cottrell, you prepared those plans that you're presenting for this evening, correct?
Yes, I did. These are the plans submitted to the board.
And this was part of the submission package. Did you want to mark that separately, or that'll be just?
As long as these are dated November 17th, 23?
Yes, they are.
Okay, then we're good.
So I'll just describe the site. Site's located 1269 US 46 East. It's block 729, lot 6.01. It's a 4.81 acre tract situated between US Highway 46 and US Highway Route 80. Route 80 on the plan is running along the top left to right, and US 46 is on the bottom. Existing on the property currently is two-story office buildings, associated parking. Currently, the building closest to Route 46 is being demolished, and that's where the current T-Mobile antennas are situated, on that roof. Basically, that building right now is gutted, just waiting for the T-Mobile antennas to come off to fully demolish it. The building to the rear, closest to Route 80, is currently still in use. Behind that building is where the proposed temporary T-Mobile facility will be situated. Just flipping to the next sheet, I'll describe the installation. Actually, I'm going to go to sheet SP3. So T-Mobile's proposing to install a 49-foot high monopole. The monopole is going to be supported by a steel frame at the base, 15 foot by 15 foot. On top of that steel frame, there'll be concrete ballast blocks. I believe it's about 50,000 pounds of concrete block, and that's the foundation for the pole. That ballast frame will be installed within a 20-foot by 20-foot lease area. On top of the tower, T-Mobile will install a total of 9 panel antennas in 3 separate sectors, along with a microwave antenna for their backhaul. On top of the concrete ballast box at the frame, they'll install their equipment cabinets and their electric cabinet. Cables will be routed from the equipment cabinets to the pole, up the pole within the interior of the pole, so the cables won't be visible. The only utilities that'll be required for the site is electric, and we're proposing to route that on grade from Route 46, from the existing utility pole Route 46, back to the proposed T-Mobile cabinet, and that'll be installed on PVC, so what they call them sleepers, which is basically a 4-inch by 4-inch block. It could be wood or PVC, and basically that block lays on grade, and the conduit gets fastened to that sleeper. The site will be visited approximately once every 4 to 6 weeks. There's existing access will be utilized. The technician will show up in a typical SUV vehicle. There is sufficient parking on site, but in reality, the technician will probably park in the back of the building on either side of the compound. There'll be no odor, no glare, no noise, no dust associated with the installation. The visits will take place during daytime hours. In the event there is an issue and the technician needs to go during nighttime hours, they typically install a light on that utility cabinet, which is basically 2 floodlights, 2 LED floodlights mounted about 10 feet above the working surface, and there'll be a 4-hour timer on there in case the technician does come at night, turn it on, and he forgets to turn it off when he leaves. It won't stay on indefinitely. Anything else I missed?
I just want to recap just a couple of items, if I may. So what's the height of the chain link fence that's going around the equipment compound?
Right, so on top of the ballast blocks, we're also surrounding the equipment with a temporary chain link fence. It's a 6-foot nominal fence, but in reality, I believe it's about 6 foot 2 inches. And it's a temporary fence, so it's not fastened, but there's a footing at the base. And so that's what, and all the fence ties into each corner, and that's what supports the fence.
And with this proposed temporary tower, will there be any ground disturbance or excavation related to the proposed tower itself?
No, there will not be.
And there will be no trees removed either for this proposed?
Correct.
We're not proposing any tree removal. And as you mentioned, no water, sewer, no noise to be generated. There's no generator proposed?
No generator, correct.
No odor, smoke, glare, dust? What do we envision in terms of timing for the temporary tower?
For the installation. These towers go up pretty quick. I wouldn't think it would be more than 2 weeks to install it from start to finish.
Okay, and when the temporary tower is eventually removed after it's had its usage, T-Mobile would restore all the areas back to the way it was, correct?
Correct, yes.
And just one last question with regard to having usage of the tower. At the end of its usage, you can confirm to this board that for whatever new site we get up permanently, we'll appear back before the board for that approval.
Yes, absolutely.
If it's a new site, not a co-location.
Correct. New tower.
Thank you. I have nothing further of this witness.
Members of the board have any questions for this witness? Gordon?
Just one, and I'm sure the answer's, it's not an issue. So this is the Top Golf site, correct?
Yes.
So this proposed location can exist while that is being constructed without a problem?
Yes, this location was selected by the owner because it will not interfere with the current demolition or the proposed redevelopment of it.
Right.
So that was selected by them.
And I know there's still a planner to testify, but that in many respects justifies the setback variance, correct?
I would say so, just because this is the location needed to not interfere with his site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, Michael?
Yeah, just one. Are there negotiations going on now to locate the permanent site on Topgolf?
Oh, Topgolf? I'm going to have my planner speak to that. He has direct knowledge of that.
Okay.
Nick?
Yes, thank you. You said this runs on electricity?
Yes.
What happens if the power goes out in the whole town? You backup generators on site?
There's no backup generator on site, but their electric cabinet is equipped with a plug, so they can roll up a generator and plug it in.
Okay. How would they know the power went out on that particular pole? They get an alert or something?
This site is monitored by the nearest switch station, so if there's power goes out, it sets off an alarm and they get notified.
So the inspector guy would come and put the generator himself? Or herself?
Yeah, I mean, a T-Mobile technician.
Okay.
I don't know if it's, someone from T-Mobile.
Okay. Does that need a variance or anything, or is any sort of documentation, or that's just? No? Okay. All right, and then I did have one more, and I probably forgot what it was. Oh, is this gated, gated? Is the fence, is there a gate on there and locked?
Right, so on top, yes, the equipment is gated.
Okay.
And there's so there's a fence with a gate, and it'll be locked.
Thank you. Other members of the board have questions?
I'm going to reserve mine for conditions of approval for later on.
Okay. All right, do our professionals have?
Yeah, just, thanks for the testimony. So this whole assembly here, the fence, the cabinets, the pole, the ballast is all like a packaged prefab system?
The ballast frame and the tower is. The ballast blocks are cast to fit within the ballast frame, depending on what weight they need. And the fence sits on top of those ballast blocks.
So all of it is kind of trucked in, placed, and then can be removed without excavation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes.
So, yeah, I was confused on it, so thank you. And now you have looks like about a 700-foot run from Route 46. Is that where you're taking power from?
Yes.
Utility pole on 46. And where you show the electric run is right on the easterly property line adjoining the target property. Looks like it's a very steep 2-to-1 slope. Have you guys thought about it engineering-wise? I was curious about your sleeper system, because you were just laying PVC or 4x4s down on a steep slope. I don't know what the integrity of that staying in place.
So I just looked at the site before I came here, and there are already some site work being done. So there is a steep slope. At the base of that slope, there is about a foot flat area where they installed the silt fence. And so that's about all we need to install those sleepers, is about that 1 foot. So there is a flat area to install those sleepers.
And then, as you know, this is not the purview of our board, but this is, 200 volt voltage, regular industrial voltage coming down on these sleepers at grade. Just all your work has to follow electrical codes, NEC codes, and everything else to make sure that the public is safe.
Absolutely. They'll have to get their electrical permit from the building department. And that'll have more detail of what size of the wires, size of the conduit.
Thank you.
All right, do you have any questions, Christine?
Can you just talk about visual impact and what is being done to mitigate it in any way?
I think the planner might hit
Planner's
on
going to
that.
handle that? Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Nope, hearing and seeing none. Counselor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My next and last witness, Mr. Tim Kong, TK Design Associates.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Timothy M. Kronk, Kronk. Business address is P.O. Box 465, Mendham, New Jersey.
Mr. Kronk, would you please provide the board with your qualifications and experience for the
Certainly.
record?
I have a Bachelor of Science from the University of Massachusetts. I have 33 years of land use experience, predominantly in New Jersey. I am a New Jersey licensed professional planner and AICP certified planner. I have been accepted by over 300 boards in the state of New Jersey, including Parsippany. And I remember the last time I was here was during COVID, because we had to wait in the parking lot to be brought in on the applications. Had that flashback when I pulled in today.
Thank you, Mr. Kronk.
Thank you.
You had an opportunity to review the materials that have been presented this evening.
Yes, I have.
And if you could give the board your summary of, criteria for granting of variance relief and the proofs to be presented.
Certainly. Subject property 269 Route 46. As was mentioned, the property is 4.8 acres. We are in the O3 zone. The O3 zone is a zone that does permit wireless telecommunications facilities. This one is a little different in nature because it is only a temporary facility. T-Mobile has been located on the existing building on the property since 1997, or they obtained their approval in 97, and they have built up a wireless network that, completely surrounds the site. And due to the building being removed, we need to find a temporary home for that little puzzle piece that's coming out of the T-Mobile network. Most importantly, because the subject property fronts on two major roads, Route 46 and Route 80, as the board is aware. So that's why this is a very important site for T-Mobile, and need to work on a temporary solution. The proposed temporary pole is 49 feet, or it's 50 feet tall. And as the engineer testified to, the base is 15 by 15 ballast structure, steel with ballast blocks on top of it. In the O3 zone, wireless telecommunications are actually permitted to a height of 125 feet, but based upon the height of the existing site in the network, T-Mobile is able to say that this is the minimum height they need to replace the existing coverage that we have here. We do have 4 bulk variances, and I actually didn't see which of the board members asked the question about how the location of the proposed temporary was related to the bulk variances we're seeking, but certainly, as you can see on my aerial photograph, which is the same that was submitted to the board, only it's mounted. Yes. Do I need to mark this? This is just a larger version of what was in the board members' package.
Sure, we can mark it as Exhibit A4. And it already has the date today.
Yes, it does. Okay, Exhibit A4 is Google Earth aerial photograph. It is, as I mentioned, it's the exact same one that is in the application package, just blown up to a larger size. Aerial date, photo date is April 29th, 2022 on here, so relatively recent. Obviously, the most predominant feature, Route 80 running east-west, subject property, 4.8 acres, with the Target shopping center just to the east. Big red dot where the proposed temporary facility is proposed. This is the existing building where the T-Mobile installation is on the rooftop. And as the engineer mentioned, this structure has been pretty much gutted, and the only thing left to remove before they can finish is this installation. This subject building in the rear corner here, this one has already been removed. This is a pile of rubble now, and these other 2 buildings on site are still in operation. As I mentioned, the property does front on Route 46 and Route 80. The fact that we are in this lower property corner, this was the location that was mentioned that the property owner has chosen for the temporary installation because that this location can stay in place during the demolition of the existing buildings as well as the construction of the new tops off. So yes, we are up against the side property line, and we're up against the front yard setback of Route 80. So it's purely being driven by the only location that the property owner had that we could locate during the construction process, and that's the basis for all our variances. This exhibit also has the 4 photo locations that correspond directly to the photo simulations that were in the package. If the board wants me to go through those, or you have any questions on those? No? Okay, I'll skip them then. Once again, as I stated, we have the 4 variances all related to the setbacks and being close to the side and front yard property lines. And those are certainly variances that I do believe the board can grant under a flexible C2. And in this case, the benefits certainly outweigh any detriments here. The benefit is T-Mobile gets to continue their service of their wireless telecommunications set network in this portion of Parsippany, most importantly covering 46, Route 80, and then also the commercial uses and the residential uses. I do believe the board can grant these variances without a substantial impairment to the zone plan and zoning ordinance. As I mentioned, the O3 zone does permit this use. It permits towers up to 125 feet. We're only taking 50 feet because that's the minimum that's required to replace this network piece. And since it's permitted in the zone, I certainly do not believe that this temporary facility would certainly impair the zone plan or zoning ordinance. So I do believe the board can grant these bulk variances for a temporary wireless telecommunications facility for T-Mobile.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Just to follow up on the 2 questions that were raised by the board members, Ms. Winter had a question about mitigating the aesthetics.
I think our biggest mitigation factor here is that we're keeping this thing as low as possible. If you look at the photo simulations, there's very little visibility of this from all the surrounding environs, especially the locations where these photos were taken. It's just above the tree line. There's really no camouflage type structure that can be used in a temporary nature. So we have no camouflage options available to us for this type of thing. And basically we did just kept it as low as possible to to reduce the visibility. Also, if you look in the photo simulations, I think, or the photo package, you'll see, the larger structures in the area are actually the light poles in the shopping center, as well as the light stanchions over at the ball field. So this tower is being towered over by the existing structures in the area.
Thank you. And there was a question raised, I believe, Mr. Napolitano, about if there's a lease negotiation with Topgolf.
Currently, we don't, Topgolf does not have interest in locating the antennas there, so we are actually pursuing lease negotiations with other property owners in the area. If they come around, we certainly would be interested.
So, my question is this. Upon approval, I would like to see moved within 30 days to the temporary site, if possible. And do you know, with it, like up to 6 months to move to a permanent site?
Well, 30 days, considering we need to file for permits.
Yeah, I
mean, you just mean file for permits?
Yeah,
within 30 days?
once you get the permits and the.
Oh, yeah, 30 days, once we have a
Yeah.
resolution, we will be ready to
Right.
file for permits. That's not a problem. We
Okay.
certainly, we do have a property owner who is eager to take down this
Right.
building, so he doesn't let a day go by without reminding us that we need to be moving on it.
Right, okay, yeah. And up to 6 months to find a permanent site, correct?
Well, up to 6 months, you're saying just to find the site, or are you saying to find it, file into zoning, get through the zoning process, get permitted and
Pretty much to move it
rebuilt?
within 6 months.
What's
That's
that?
Pretty much to move it within 6 months.
That's going to
Up
be very difficult. I mean, this application here was filed 6 months ago, and we're just getting to the zoning board. So it's, we have, and that one, I'm sorry, planning board. So we have.
But you did go in front of the zoning board, right?
Was that?
Did you go in front of the zoning board?
No, I made a mistake
Okay.
when I said zoning.
All right.
I meant planning. I'm just saying the process is a little longer than that, so to be able to, finish the leasing, file for zoning, get our zoning approval, file for building, and then move into the construction process. And of course, the construction process on a new facility does take a little longer than the temporary. So we really do need more time than 6 months. If the board wants us to come back and give them an update in 6 months, we can do that. But it would be very difficult for me to say we could get this done in less than a year, to be honest. But we'll do our best.
Well, I'm gonna say shoot for the 6 months.
And I was actually going to say, I've worked on some of the temporary facilities with the MUA in town, and I know how we had to get permits for that or approvals for those temporaries. And those were okay to do in 6 months, because you're coming off the water tank, you're installing on the temporary tower, then going back. We didn't have the issue of having to get a new lease and then going through a full zoning process in that 6 months. So that's where I see this is a little different than the normal temporary process that we've been involved in Parsippany.
Okay, so upon approval then, the permits and all that kind of stuff,
That-
30 days to
absolutely.
move to the temporary site,
Absolutely.
and we'll
That's not
discuss the 6 months.
Yes, you will.
And again, we're
We'll
happy.
do- We'll work with you,
Yeah,
whatever.
we're happy to
I'm
come
just
back
telling
and
you
give
what
an
the.
update, after the 6 months, Believe me, we want a permanent site as much as you guys do.
As far as the permanent site, are you aiming for another building, a new tower, co-location? Do you have any
Right now,
idea?
we're looking at buildings. Yes.
I believe our chairman said that he's got a water tower.
We've got a great water tower, which is where you put it, the last temporary pole I saw.
Are you looking in the same vicinity, or?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep,
so,
same thing. We need to take and replace that same puzzle piece that was presented by the radio frequency engineer. We're looking to replicate that coverage.
All right. Any other members of the board have any questions? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness or of any of the previous witnesses? Because I don't think I asked for that. Hearing and seeing none. Counselor,
I can provide a very brief summation, if that pleases the board.
that makes sense.
Thank you very much for your time and attention, Chairman, members of the board, board professionals. You heard testimony from our engineer regarding the site plan and overall design. You also heard testimony from our RF engineer confirming the need for the temporary site due to the decommissioning of the current existing wireless installation on the building. She also provided testimony that emissions from the facility will be well within all state and federal standards, and that the site will operate well within the law for frequency exposure pursuant to FCC guidelines. You finally heard testimony from our planner regarding the positive benefits of improved wireless telecommunication service and that this site is particularly suited, seeing that there is already an existing facility at the site. We submitted that there's no traffic, no noise, no glare, vibration, odor proposed with this subject application. And finally, we submit that the applicant has met the statutory criteria for the grant of minor site plan approval with associated variance relief for the installation of this 49-foot proposed temporary tower. Weighing the evidence presented in support of the application and based on the proofs presented to the board, we would respectfully request approval of the application and ask that the board grant approval for the same as testified to throughout the hearing this evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Any members of the public have any questions or have any objections to this application at this time?
Mr. Chairman, William S. Furio, appearing on behalf of...
I'm sorry, could you use the microphone? Could you use the microphone? And please state your name, spell your last name.
Can you hear me? It's William S. Furio, Ruggierio. I'm with the firm Garofalo O'Neill Furio. I'm appearing tonight for one reason, just maybe to emphasize what the mayor...
Hold the microphone closer. Use the microphone. Just hold it closer to your mouth. Yeah.
Yes. I'm appearing tonight to just emphasize one thing. The mayor alluded to it. We contacted Jennifer today and understood that the permit would be issued for 6 months.
And speak up. I'm sorry.
Yes, we understand that the permit would be issued for 6 months.
Having trouble hearing. Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that good? Okay.
People say I talk, I didn't think but maybe. Anyway, we talked to Jennifer today and understood that the permit would be issued for 6 months. We represent the property owner. That's in accord with what we expected, so I just wanted to make that known to the board.
And I reiterate what he said. I spoke to Jennifer about 2-3 hours ago with regards to this, and the same exact thing. We spoke about up to 6 months. So I'm just reiterating what I had, a conversation that I had as well, just to be transparent.
Well, and they basically told us that it's most likely to take a full year.
Well.
All right, if they move quickly. So, thank you. Any other members of the public who have any, wish to state any objections or in favor? Hearing and seeing none. This closes the evidentiary portion of tonight's hearing. Is there a motion and conditions?
So I had the conditions were that the applicant would comply with all FCC and state guidelines regarding the equipment. The applicant would comply and follow all electrical codes and permitting requirements for the township. The applicant shall file permits to move to the temporary site within 30 days of this memorialization, and within six months, we'll provide an update regarding moving to a permanent facility.
All right, do I have somebody willing to move that motion?
I will.
Thank you, Mr. Napolitano.
Motion to approve application 23:533, T-Mobile, 1269, Route 46, Block 729, Lot 6.01, Zone 03. Minor site plan with C variance to construct a temporary monopole with antennas and electric service.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Nora, would you call the roll, please?
Barbario.
Yes.
Denise.
Yes.
DePiero.
Yes.
Brant.
Yes.
Billy.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Napolitano.
Yes?
Shaw.
Yes.
Stanzio.
Yes.
Dinsmore.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for long, thoughtful consideration of the previous.
Motion to adjourn.
You're not going to let me go into a long-winded speech? Do I have a second on adjourning?
Second.
Second.
All right, everybody in favor, get up and leave.
I've been away for the adjournment.